I welcome you to the presentation of our paper, Forensic Analysis of an IoT ARP Spoofing Attack. The paper was written by myself, Sabrina Friedl, and Professor Dr. Günther Pernl. We are both from the University of Regensburg. I'm still working on my PhD, and Professor Dr. Pernl is since 2002 a renowned professor leading the chair of information systems and working on several books, publications, and various projects. If you are interested in our work, you can just visit our website. So let's start with what is an ARP spoofing attack. ARP spoofing, also known as ARP poisoning, is a cyber attack technique that involves manipulating ARP, the address resolution protocol, to associate a rogue MAC address with a legitimate IP address. This false association can lead to various forms of network attacks, primarily MITM, man-in-the-middle attacks, or eavesdropping. But why love attackers to target IoT devices? Well, there are several reasons, starting with the IoT environment itself. It presents a high number of devices and a flexible network structure. Another challenge are IoT vendor aspects, representing the lack of security integrated into IoT devices, especially small ones. A problem that passwords are sometimes hard-coded and therefore cannot be changed, and the general lack of update and patching mechanisms for IoT devices. These aspects make IoT devices favorite entry points to get access to the actual targeted critical infrastructure. IoT forensics is based on the IoT infrastructure and is built by several digital forensics subdomains. The bases build the IoT devices, representing device forensics. As the devices communicate over some kind of network, the second important part is network forensics. Finally, a lot of the IoT environment's data is transferred to the cloud to be analyzed, for example, where we need cloud forensics. As data on IoT devices can be volatile, additionally, the application of live forensics can be of advantage. As can be seen here, generally, an IoT environment can be divided into consumer IoT, representing, for example, smart homes, and industrial IoT, representing industrial use cases. Our contribution is threefold. First, we present a break-in scenario that makes use of ARP spoofing in connection with IoT and is inspired by a real case. Second, we establish an IoT testbed with Arduinos and various sensors. Third, we conduct a forensic investigation, analyzing the simulated ARP spoofing attack systematically. Let's directly start with the break-in scenario. On the one hand, the company Electric Automobiles establishes a new IoT surveillance system in combination with a password-based login system, not using an encryption. Bob, on the other hand, is an angry former employee that wants to revenge his dismissal, which he did not consider fair. He gathered from former colleagues the newly implemented security features, including non-existing encryption, and thus utilized the still working company credentials to perform an ARP spoofing attack, break into the company and steal confidential technical documents, which he then sells to the competitor Future Automotives. The IoT environment is set up as visualized here. We used an Arduino Uno Rev 2, an Arduino Nano 33 IoT, and two sensors. One is a motion sensor, and the other one is a keypad sensor for typing in passwords. For the procedure of the forensic investigation, we created a BPMN diagram. representing all steps taken. We start in the identification phase with simply creating an evidence map. It shows the two sensors, the membrane keypad, the motion sensor, the router, the central node, and an unknown device. In the next step, we identify what output the intruder could sniff and map the data to the two sensors. One is the movement sensor and the other one is the keypad for typing in the password. Additionally, it is evident that two devices repeatedly send MQTT messages to the central node, indicating that these devices are sensors. This inference is supported by an analysis of the MQTT protocol. Furthermore, it is possible to identify which device serves as the motion sensor and which one functions as the keypad module. Then, several broadcasts are observed using the ARP protocol from my MAC address. Upon consulting the system administrator of the company, Electric Automobiles, it was confirmed that this MAC address belongs to the router, responsible for managing ARP responses within the network through ARP tables and receiving ARP responses when necessary. The collection phase is done simultaneously with identifying the devices, sensors, and communication in the network, which leads to possible evidence data like MQTT protocols, router ARP tables, and firewall log files. The next phase is the data reduction phase. In our case, it is not needed due to the small amount of data. But in a real case IoT environment, this step is probably needed. In the next phase, the analysis of the evidence firewall log file is done, as it is relevant because it can provide a temporal reference of the attack. Here can be seen that no records were obtained between 2022-11 and 2022-49. The actual attack was performed between 2020-12 and 2020-19. This suggests that no firewall entries occurred during the ARP spoofing attack. This evidence can be used to answer the question about the crime time, supporting the investigative reconstruction. Further evidence is provided by the ARP caches before and during the attack. These were captured during the identification phase and make it clear that the router's MAC address has changed. This evidence indicates that ARP spoofing was actually performed. Additionally, the ARP tables show, with the headers, various informations. In the header, there are two yellow colored lines, indicating two MAC addresses for the same IP address in two cases. From the identification phase, we know the broker's IP address. We also know the IP address and the MAC address of the router. The other MAC address that is present in both headers can now be assigned to the unknown IP address. This is the unknown device in the evidence map during the identification phase. This evidence further indicates that ARP spoofing was performed. Finally, we can now create a report that describes in a step-by-step manner what happened. Thus, we were able to answer the key questions. What was done? ARP spoofing was performed, documents were stolen and sold. How was it done? With Bob's PC in the company network, and then Bob broke in after sniffing the needed passwords and disabling the movement sensor. When did it happen? Between 2012 and 2019 in the evening. What was stolen? The sniffed passwords on the one hand, and the final goal was to break in and steal the confidential technical documents on the electric car's engine. Where did it happen? It was done within the company's Wi-Fi network range, and the confidential documents were stolen from the company itself. Why was it done? We could also find out that Bob was motivated by his anger. He wanted revenge for his, to him, unfair dismissal and additionally profit from it by selling it to the competitors' future automotives. The report is created so that also non-forensic experts can understand the results and how they were achieved. A forensic report can look like the exemplary document shown here. It details the applied methods and approaches, what evidence could be gathered, what tools were used, and answers optimally the key questions as described in our use case. We thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, please contact sabrina.friedl@ur.de.